Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be going over another unique item which I failed to upload. I thought I had done this one, but I must have forgotten to upload it. So this is the Darksight Helm Basinet. This is a exceptional level unique, and because it is exceptional level unique, it can be upgraded into the elite form. Unfortunately for the Darksight, I do believe the Basinet upgrades into a rather ridiculous strength requirement, if I remember correctly. Darksight Helm is also one of the only two helmets in the game that offer cannot be frozen, which posits it as a very interesting choice for a mercenary, because obviously mercenaries don't have a lot of gear choices. They can't use Raven Frosts, for instance. They can't use a Trang's belt or a Death's sash. You more often than not don't want to waste a Chamroon on the helmet, so you're left with two options, which is basically Darksight Basinet or the Kira's Guardian. If you happen to have a Kira's Guardian, it might be a better choice, but we'll go over the helmet together and we'll talk about it. So this is a relatively low-level helmet at level 38. Not too bad, but actually pretty high level for a Nightmare level unique. Exceptional level uniques usually are around level 30, so 8 levels higher than a normal exceptional level unique. We also have a strength requirement of 82 on this, which is not bad at all for Nightmare, and 275 defense, which is actually pretty darn good defense on this. We have 6% chance to cast level 3 Dim Vision when struck. Now, Dim Vision is a very interesting Necromancer curse. It basically applies a blinding effect to any monster who is nearby. It does have a pretty decent little radius. Even at level 3, it's 4 yards. So it will hit pretty much everything around the target, which, like, for instance, if you had, like, say, like a pack of archers who were shooting at you from a distance, you very easily could blind every single archer in the pack with 4-yard radius. It does last 11 seconds, and it does get cut down, unfortunately, by the penalties in Hell difficulty. So it does go down a little bit less. The chance to cast, though, is actually very nice to break up the damage. So even though it doesn't last very long, one of the cool things about the Dim Vision when struck is that anytime it procs on a monster, the monster will, the ranged monsters will not be hitting you. Okay, so during that time period, they can't hit you. They can't do anything. They're stuck. So normally, if you had like an archer, he would just be like plink, 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 like a plink, 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 plink. Right. Well, every time the Dim Vision hits him, even if it only lasts for a couple seconds, it's going to look more like this: plink, 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 plink. And you will notice that the damage that is incoming to you will decrease a lot from those ranged monsters who are trying to murder your soul, just simply because it will offer breaks in the combat, allowing your chance to maybe your potions to help your health regenerate, or maybe for you to give potions to your mercenary so your mercenary doesn't die. We also have 5% Mana Steal, which is definitely nice to have on a helmet. Mana Steal is always welcome for melee and ranged characters who are actual players. However, it's not welcome for mercenaries, because mercenaries don't need mana. So kind of a downside there, especially since I kind of sold it as a mercenary helmet in the beginning, right? We also have defense based on character level, which is why this helmet has such high defense. So it's 198 defense based on character level. Pretty sure that's 2 per level, up to level 99, which is what my character is. So we are looking at a lower amount of defense there for a level 38 character. So you're looking at what, like 76 extra defense for a lower level character. We also have fire resistance of 40% on this, and it does vary from 20 to 40. Kind of an odd variable for an armor. It's actually the only variable on this armor, so we also have a -4 light radius, which, believe it or not, is actually kind of helpful. So light radius, believe it or not, is how your character is kind of like dealt with in an aggro world. So like if you were standing in a room and your character had a really bright light radius, every monster in the room can see you. Whereas if you have a rather low light radius, and say you're a melee character, you don't want the ranged monsters necessarily being able to see you. And a lower light radius means that the ranged monsters will aggro you from a shorter distance, which means you have to be closer to them for them to actually start shooting at you. Can come in handy, actually, to help a melee character kind of like avoid a little bit of range damage. We also obviously have the Cannot Be Frozen, which I already talked about. This is one of the only 2 helms in the game that give Cannot Be Frozen. It's a very cheap and very easy option to give Cannot Be Frozen to a mercenary. It's also much lower level than Kira's Guardian at level 38, so definitely a very easy option for a lower level character to give Cannot Be Frozen to their merc. Obviously, you could socket the helmet. You could add some more things to it if you wanted to. Like maybe a Shale Rune for faster hit recovery, which would definitely be nice on a merc. We also have a level 5 Cloak of Shadows. Now, Cloak of Shadows is actually really powerful, and not only does Cloak of Shadows give you a defense bonus, it actually does a hell of a lot more than a lot of people realize. I've actually played around with Cloak of Shadows on an Assassin, so the actual real deal. Cloak of Shadows gives you a defense bonus. So since this is levels, was it 5? So we get a defense bonus of 22%, which means our defense is going to increase rather nicely from 3,310 to some. We'll check it out in a second here. We'll go use it. The enemy's defense also gets reduced. So this is another thing that is actually pretty sweet, is that all monsters nearby have their defense reduced by negative 27%. It lasts for 12 seconds. And the other thing that Cloak of Shadows does is it reduces the monster's light radius to 0, which basically makes it impossible for the monster to see or hit anything that is not standing directly on top of them. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So if I go over here and I use my Cloak of Shadows, you will notice that the monsters cannot attack me unless I'm close enough to them, with the exception of Eldritch. Eldritch is a super unique. But if I stand directly next to them, they can hit me. But if I walk away from them, I'm no longer in their light radius. And that's kind of like the key here. So you notice my defense is also increased to 3,675, and it's much easier now for me to hit the monsters because they have lower defense. So the Cloak of Shadows actually can be useful on a player, especially considering there's 30 charges, and it's actually a pretty decent level. It's also very useful just for like avoiding fighting at all. So like say if I wanted to just avoid fighting, I could just throw Cloak of Shadows up, and I could use it on monsters like this. And as you can see, there's a demonstration of the break in the range damage. So immediately upon being, triggering the effect, essentially, the little spike fiends, they blind themselves, and as soon as they blinded themselves, they couldn't hit me anymore. So I was in a better position, essentially, to receive less damage from them because they're going to be constantly blinding themselves. Darksight is definitely an interesting helmet. It has a lot of interesting effects. It's not just like, hey, this is a standard helmet with standard effects, and you don't really need to think about this helmet too much because, it's just stats. No. Darksight Helmet is far more than just stats, and it's actually a very interesting combination of things going on here. Obviously, we have the dim vision, which is going to be protecting us from those ranged monsters who are dishing out damage. We have the Cannot Be Frozen, which again is going to be protecting us from, being slowed down to a point of oblivion. We also have a very nice Cloak of Shadow effect, which gives us increased defense and protects us from the monsters. So there's a theme going on here. The helmet is a protective helmet, much like Kira's Guardians is a protective helmet. However, Darksight Basinet is definitely protective in a different way than Kira's. Kira's is trying to give you more resistances. It's trying to make you invulnerable, basically, by increasing your resilience. Darksight is trying to make you invincible by making it so the monsters can't see you. It's blinding them when they hit you. It gives you Cloak of Shadows to blind them yourself, and it also offers you a pretty decent amount of defense and Cannot Be Frozen, so you don't get slowed down while you're trying to work your way through a crowd. It's all very interesting, and it adds up to a very useful helmet early on in the levels. The ethereal version doesn't get a huge bump in defense, unfortunately, though, because Darksight Basinet does not have enhanced defense on it. It is one of the few helmets in the game that does not have any enhanced defense whatsoever, and instead offers the defense based on character level, which means it probably won't upgrade very well either, but we're going to go check it out anyway. So to upgrade this, you're going to need a Lem rune, and you're going to need a Co rune, and a Perfect Diamond. Okay, and if you did happen to find the ethereal version, you would definitely want to try and upgrade that as well. So let's grab another Lem rune and another Co rune. So the non-ethereal version, we're going to upgrade that first, is going to upgrade from 275 defense, 82 strength, level 38, to 350 defense, giant conch, 142 strength, and level 47. Not a bad little upgrade there at all. Actually didn't upgrade poorly at all. I'm actually kind of surprised. The level didn't go up that much. The strength requirement didn't go up too ridiculously high, although that is high. 142 is pretty high, but not higher than 156 that you would need for a Spirit Monarch shield. So, you know, we're looking at a pretty decent little bump there. The ethereal version can also be upgraded from 313 defense, 72 strength, level 38, to 426 defense, 132 strength, level 47. Pretty nice little upgrade for a mercenary. I could totally see doing that. Put that on a the level 47 mercenary, give him the cannot be frozen and the dim vision when struck. Could definitely help keep him alive. I really feel like you'd probably want to throw a shell rune in here, though, for the faster hit recovery if you're using the Act 2 Merc, because the Act 2 Merc does have a lot of issues with faster hit recovery stuns, because he has very bad faster hit recovery frames. Or you could throw an IAS jewel in here or something like that. I mean, it's really not a bad helmet overall. Are there better helmets in the game? Yeah, probably. But if you're hurting for cannot be frozen and you're a melee character who could really get good use out of that as dim vision when struck, why not? The only downside to the dim vision when struck is that it is a curse. So if you are relying on amplified damage or lower resistance or you know, any other type of curse like maybe Decrepify, the dim vision when struck will overwrite those other curses. So keep that in mind. Let's take a look over at Silas Pen real quick, and let's see where we could potentially find this item if we wanted to get our hands on it, shall we? All right, so Darksight Basinet. And it's a level 30 item, so let's assume about 100% magic find. I feel like that's a pretty fair number. Let's ignore the quest flags, and it looks like we're looking at Nightmare Mephisto at 1 in 4006 and Nightmare Diablo at 1 in 4068. Now, if I had to choose between these two, I would definitely choose Diablo, me personally, because I don't like farming Mephisto. He's too random. Sometimes you will find him in like 10 seconds, and sometimes it would take you like freaking 10 minutes. Whereas Diablo, I know where he is every single time, and his lieutenants, Grand Visor of Chaos, Infector of Souls, and Lord Decease often drop pretty good stuff too. So, I mean, they're very close together in drop rate as well. Now, in the case where you can find Mephisto very quickly, like for instance, if you're offline single player and you have a dedicated map, like a really easy map, and you can just like walk straight to Mephisto over and over again, in that case, sure, why not farm Mephisto instead? But most people are online and are not cheating and not using map hack, and so Mephisto is a little bit more of a pain in the butt to get to. So Nightmare Diablo becomes I think the better choice there. Let's take a look at super uniques, and let's check and see which super uniques we could play around with. Hail Cow King, that's kind of a really bad choice for a level 30 helmet. Nightmare Neelathak, that's also a pretty bad choice for a low level helmet. A lot of the times with these Nightmare level uniques, I've noticed that they don't really tend to drop where you want them to drop. We do have Eldritch, the Rectifier. Storm Tree in Lower Kurast might be a better choice. especially if you're trying to get this somewhere near on level. Just simply because at the level that it is, it's you know, you'd kind of want to get your hands on this before you get knee deep into nightmare difficulty. But it doesn't look like there's a lot of really good choices for farming this before like Act 3. I mean, the earliest it looks like you can get it is Nightmare and Dariel. 1 in 7,691. Not exactly the best probability there, but definitely better than waiting until Nightmare Mephisto, which is 2 acts later. You know, if you're trying to get this at the beginning of Nightmare difficulty where it would actually be useful and useful for a long time, you know, definitely Nightmare and Dariel looks like a better bet there to like try and get it early on. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and might as well take a look at it real quick before we jet out the door. As you can see, it's kind of like a Greek hoplite kind of a helmet there. And as always, keep watching.